here. What's up, guys? I'm about to live stream my philosophical replies. We're blowing up like Jamie Kennedy.
Double time, cause I'm trying to get a sex, I'ma blow with it. Fuck fire, she bad. Talking to a bitch, yeah, you talking to yourself. Let's go. Hella sex in my bank, hit a shorty double time, cause I'm trying to get a sex, I'ma blow with it. Fuck fire, she bad. Talking to a bitch, yeah, you talking to yourself. Yeah, my demon told me that I gotta stop, yeah, problem. All these bitches playing, I'm just watching. I don't need no fucking hell till I'm drunk. Get a bank so fast, like a motherfucking shopping. Get a bitch so bad, be so bad. Get a bitch so bad, be so bad. When I blood, we spend, then we spend. When I blood, we spend.
This is gonna be kind of a short stream, because I'm just gonna reply back on these philosophical comments, and I'm gonna end it, and then I'm gonna get back on Overwatch. So let's start with Khan Cretan. My boy is a believer in God. Thank God we got some people left that believe in God. Well, actually, more people believe in God than don't. I just tend to find people that don't believe in God to be absurd. It's like they don't even know what they're trying to say. They kind of aggravate me. It's like, do you even know what the fuck you're saying? You don't even know what the fuck you're saying.
So bad, hella sex in my bank, hit a shorty double time, cause I'm trying to get a sex, I'ma blow with it. Fuck fire, she bad. Talking to a bitch, yeah, you talking to yourself. Let's go, yeah. Hella sex in my bank, hit a shorty double time, cause I'm trying to get a sex, I'ma blow with it. Fuck fire, she bad. Talking to a bitch, yeah, you talking to yourself. Yeah, my demon told me that I gotta stop, yeah, problem. All these bitches playing, I'm just watching. I don't need no fucking hell till I'm drunk. Get a bank so fast, like a motherfucking shopping. Get a bitch so bad, be so bad. Get a bitch so bad, be so bad. When I blood, we spend, then we spend.
Alright. Let's start the philosophical replies. We start with Khan Cretan. I've already replied. We've already been talking a little bit. He's commented on my YouTube video here. He says, God has always been and always will be. He is outside of time. Exactly. This is where I keep ending up too. If God created time itself, asking who created God may already contain the mistake. Created implies a before and an after. But if God exists outside of time, there was never a moment before God where he didn't exist and then suddenly appeared. There was no clock ticking away, waiting for God to show up. He simply is, and that's what keeps baking my noodle. Something ultimately has to account for why there is existence instead of absolute nothing. And the deeper I follow the question, the more I keep coming back to the same possibility. It must have been God. Not a being who was sitting around for trillions of years waiting to create the universe, but an eternal foundation of reality that never began in the first place. Maybe asking who created God is like asking what happened before there was a before. Do you see the analogy? Some questions, basically don't even make sense to ask. Like, to ask what happened before there was a before, you can't really ask that question because there wasn't anything before a before, theoretically speaking, to begin with. The question might break down because we are trying to apply time to something that by definition isn't inside it. I seriously used to drive myself crazy with the same thoughts, but now I just know there are some things that we are just meant not to understand, and there is peace in that thought and allows you to fully trust God. I actually understand this completely. There may be questions our minds simply aren't equipped to fully answer from where we're standing. I made a good point about this yesterday on stream. I'll bring that up after I read this. Maybe trying to comprehend God or the ultimate foundation of reality is like asking a character inside a video game to completely understand the computer running the game. At some point, you might reach the edge of what you can know and say, I don't understand it, but I trust God. And I can absolutely see the peace in that. My problem is my brain won't leave it alone. Every time I reach, we may never understand this, another little voice goes, okay, but what if we try one more question? That's basically how this entire video series happened. I believe God exists too, but I also love hearing from people who don't, because I want to understand what they think is at the bottom of the rabbit hole. So here's another noodle baker for everyone. What if we are not meant to understand everything, but our endless desire to try to understand it is itself part of the point? Welcome back to the rabbit hole. Did I already reply that? Oh no, okay, there we go. All right, now we're going to move on to TikTok here. Oh, and my point was, well, when you're trying to contemplate and understand certain things that you basically shouldn't really, like, trying to understand what potentially maybe it is, let's say it's God's job. So it was God's job to create the whole galaxy in the foundation of reality, get it all set up. Trying to understand something like that is kind of like trying to look at your own brain, but you already know it's there. Why would you need to look at your own brain if you already know it's there? That's like, you know, opening up your skull, removing it, and that's what I mean by looking. Some things you don't have to do. That's my entire point. It's not like you have to do certain things, all right? So you're going to reach a point where it defeats the purpose. So if I want to look at my brain all I'm saying is you don't have to look at your brain in order for your brain to be there and to work. Because you know that it's there. So why would you need to remove your skull and then like look at your brain and be like, yep, there's my brain. Now I know that it's working. Now I can see it. See, that's just, it's, a lot of things are like that. It's like a part of the nature of reality. Like, it's really stupid to contemplate certain things. All right, where are we at? How many fucking comments do we got to catch up on? We got a few. Damn it, if we keep getting too many comments like this. Oh, wait, there we go. I'm caught up. All right, yeah, we're going to start with Grin Angle cuz that's where I left off. Okay. All right, Grin Angel, I have a reply for you. So Grin Angle is making it sound like we're talking to an imaginary person, but that's just, he's being a drama queen. He's basically putting words in my mouth, and he's the one imagining things that aren't even there, but yet he's telling me I'm the one that's delusional. Go figure. Like, what's the lot? Where do these people get so stupid? How did they get so fucking stupid? All right, so I got a reply for him. So it's like he's trying to say this, because we can see his reply is very shallow. Like, bruh, they don't even know what they're saying, and you can clearly tell they don't even know what they're saying. Like, I can barely make sense of his fucking sentence over here. He says all this, and next minute you're telling me you've got some communication. Just stop. Like, he's so vague about the point he's making that it, like, absolutely makes no sense. So let me explain what he's actually trying to say. So it sounds like he's actually trying to say something like this. All this, and next minute you're telling me you've got some communication. Just stop. I think he's being sarcastic and predicting where he thinks your argument is eventually going. Basically, he's saying something like, you're doing all the abstract reasoning to redefine God as the fundamental basis of reality, and next you'll tell me you communicate with this God. Come on, stop. So he clearly is not even close to the skill level of my level of communication, being able to put things in, like, all these dumb people don't even know what they're really saying. Like, they can't complete their sentences. They can't actually wrap their minds around what they're actually saying. Like, do you know how much he left out in his reply? Like, he is barely able to construct a fucking sentence, and yet, how can anyone take someone like that fucking serious? My boy, you barely make any fucking sense. It's like he's a fucking kindergartner. That's like how a kindergartner would write a fucking sentence, bruh. All right, we continue. We're going to reply. Give me a second. All right, I'm going to get this reply ready for him. All right, I got a reply for him right here. So here's my reply to him. Grin Angle, get back to school. My boys, stay in school. Stay in school. That's all I can tell you. You're on, like, the lowest level of intellectual communication. You're, like, barely still at kindergarten level ability to speak, bro. What kind of sentence? Look at how. I mean, 1 out of 10. I honestly rate his reply a 1. Barely even. It's like half of fucking 1. It's like 0.5 of 10. Because, first of all, his sentence barely makes any sense. He didn't even really even get to complete his very basic. He could barely even complete a very basic fucking sentence. And then, I'm the one who's fucking stupid. I'm the one who's fucking delusional. But yet, I don't sit here and write sentences 0.5 out of fucking 10. All right, so our reply back is, okay, that's actually beautifully... No, that wasn't the reply. The reply is... I gotta find it. It's right here. I think I see what you're saying now. You're basically predicting my next move. Okay, first you call the foundation of reality God. Then next you're going to tell me this God talks to you. But those are two completely different questions. They don't even know how to differentiate two separate fucking things. Because they're so stupid. I'm starting with this, with the first one. Does reality ultimately have some eternal foundation? And what is it? If we eventually conclude that something fundamental has always existed, that still doesn't automatically prove it's conscious, intelligent, personal, or communicating with anybody. Those would require additional arguments. I personally believe God is conscious and intelligent, but I'm not going to sneak that conclusion into the first argument and pretend I've proven it. So let's stay exactly where you put us. You said it's always here and it's always now. Okay, what is it? That's the question. I'm trying to get you to answer. Don't leave the rabbit hole now. You help dig the damn thing. Okay. So he's barely going to be able to formulate a response to that one. We see how he's formulating responses. He's barely even able to craft together a fucking one sentence fucking reply. Okay, we move on to the next. So we are going to look for the next comment. Fashion Day View liked our comment. This lady here believes in the Quran. At least she's in the right ballpark. She's in the right ballpark. All right, the Quran. Oh, we got two people. Oh, we got a bunch of people to reply. We're going to start with her. All right. We are going to get a reply for her. So Queen says... The Quran answers this. Allah was never created, just is. Never sleeps nor dies. See, at least she is on the right track, alright? So, the whole concept of God has kind of been out there and hidden. Nobody just really pinpointed it and was able to really explain it the way that I can finally explain it. That's the point of me doing this, is like, all right, let me help you put this into words, since you apparently don't know how to really speak language very well. Okay, so she says, created the heavens and the earth, the expanding universe, creator of frequency, somatics, quantum physics, mankind, plants, and many other creatures and civilizations. Alright, so our reply back to her. Here is our reply back to her. We're going to read our reply back to her. So I'm going to reply back saying, this is exactly why I love hearing how different religions approach the same mystery. What you're describing about Allah connects directly to the rabbit hole I've been exploring. Never created, never began, doesn't die, simply is. Creator of everything else. That's fascinating, because my whole question has been, if something ultimately never needed to be created, what is it? You just put your chip on the table. Allah. And personally, I'm putting my chip on God too. Now, here's the noodle baker for everyone. Regardless of religion, what if humans keep asking, who created God? Because our brains are accustomed to everything having a beginning. But the ultimate creator is precisely the one thing to which the concept of beginning doesn't apply. That's basically what it fucking means. So they're trying to contradict what something already actually means. Like somebody that doesn't believe in God, they're like basically they don't even know what they're saying because they're too intellectually stupid to wrap their mind around that they're stating contradictions, basically asking questions that you can't even really ask. Like, it makes no sense to ask that question, or it makes no sense to do something that's stupid. Like I said, we don't need to open our skull and look at our brain to know that it's operating and know that it's there, because we already know that it's there. Like, if you already know that it's there, why would you need to look at it? They act like, oh, well, we need to look at our brain and then we're going to know that it's there. Why? Why would you need to open your brain up or your skull up and sit there looking at your brain? Like, it. That's what I'm saying. People come up with, they're basically saying things that stupid, and they don't realize that they're actually saying something that fucking stupid. Thank God I have arrived to straighten out, like, hey, do you know how stupid you're talking? So we're gonna be calling out these people that are talking stupid like that. Okay. Maybe God doesn't exist for an infinite amount of time before creation. Maybe time itself is part of a creation, and God simply is. Now that's where my noodle gets completely cooked. I love to hear how Islam explains. I gotta sneeze. Oh, fuck. I hate allergies, dude. I love how Islam explains the distinction between God existing forever versus existing completely outside of our concept of time. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. We got a follower. Okay, the next question's here. Let's just go through it like this since we're already here. The Big Bang Theory is bullshit. So nothing exploded and by doing so created everything. It makes zero sense. I somewhat agree. I agree the Big Bang happened, but I believe God is the reason the Big Bang occurred. So most people are basically trying to say when the Big Bang happened, there was nothing under control of it. But my theory is someone or something or God was under control of that process, that event. Oops. All right, so we're going to reply back to him. So we are getting the reply right now. Give me a second. Formulating a response. I believe God All right, here we go. Here is the next reply. All right, so my reply is I'm actually with you on the deeper mystery, but there's one important distinction. The Big Bang Theory doesn't really say nothing exploded and created everything. It's describing the universe expanding from an incredibly hot, dense early state. But here's where my belief enters the picture. Even if the Big Bang happened exactly as cosmology describes it, that doesn't answer my biggest question. Why did that reality exist? And why did it do anything at all? Personally, I have an even harder time believing the ultimate foundation of everything was simply uncontrolled randomness that somehow resulted in a universe capable of producing galaxies, stars, chemistry, life, consciousness, and eventually two dudes arguing about it on TikTok. So I don't necessarily look at the Big Bang and say, Big Bang or God. I look at it and ask, what if the Big Bang was part of how God did it? Maybe God didn't need to magically pop Earth into existence fully assembled. Maybe God had absolute control over the underlying process that allowed everything to unfold. That's my philosophical bet. I can't prove it, and I'm not asking you to take my word for it, but here's the noodle baker. If the Big Bang really happened, was it ultimately random, necessary, or intentional? I'm putting my chip on intentional. What are you betting on? All right, next question, next reply. We go to Cynthia. Cynthia. So Cynthia says, these were my deep thoughts laying in bed as a 7-year-old. I still wonder, but I know a little more now, but I'm still trying to figure it out. It's enough to bake your noodle, especially thinking about it when you're 7 years old, because I used to think about this sort of thing when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, also. So I know exactly where she's coming from. All right, I got the reply for Cynthia. Cynthia, we're about to bake your noodle. All right, so I reply back, I know exactly where you're coming from. I used to have these kinds of thoughts when I was like 6 to 8 years old, too. Some of my earliest memories of really thinking about existence. I'd be sitting there thinking, okay, God created everything. Then little kid brain kicks in, wait, then where did God come from? Maybe God was always there. How can something have always been there? And suddenly you're a little kid accidentally trying to solve one of humanity's biggest philosophical mysteries instead of worrying about cartoons. The crazy part is, decades later, I'm still asking the same questions. I've just collected a lot more information and created way more questions. Personally, the deeper I've gone, the more I've come to believe that God must exist. That's my philosophical bet, though. Not something I can prove or force anyone else to believe. But since you've been baking this noodle since you were 7 too, what do you believe now? After all these years of thinking about it, what do you think was ultimately always there? Okay, we go to Goger. He says the eternal present has and is always. He is on the right track. He is on it. He's getting it. And then I say to him, the eternal present. Now that's a noodle baker. Maybe past and future are partly how we experience reality. While existence itself is always happening as now, think about it. You have never personally experienced yesterday as yesterday. You experienced it when it was now. You won't experience tomorrow as tomorrow either. When tomorrow arrives, it will be now. Past was now present, is now future, becomes now. So maybe reality never actually leaves the present from the perspective of experience. And then my God rabbit hole starts screaming again. What if an eternal God doesn't experience an infinite sequence of yesterday, today, tomorrow like we do? What if God simply is? No beginning, no ending, just eternal existence. Now I'm curious what you mean by eternal present. Do you think all moments somehow exist, or do you think only the present actually exists? We have Josh here. So he has more of a personal belief in God. He says God does exist because I almost died in 2005. I don't know if that's very relevant, but I can see where the guy is coming from, right? That might be enough for anybody to believe in God, especially if you want to live. So maybe that for him, that's what sells it to him. That's what sells it to him. It might not sell it for you, but for him, now he's sold on it. So I reply back, okay, now, oh, I'll actually show you the reply first and then read it to you. Okay, now you've got my attention. You can't just drop God exists because I was almost dead in 2005 and walk away like you didn't just leave the entire comment section hanging. What happened? Did you see something? Feel something? Experience something you couldn't explain? Did something happen that you believe shouldn't have been possible? I've been talking a lot about God philosophically, but personal experiences are an entirely different rabbit hole. I personally believe God must exist too, but that's my belief, my philosophical bet. What I'm really interested in is why your experience took you from I almost died to I know God exists. Tell us the 2005 story. You officially can't leave us with that cliffhanger. Hopefully it's not like so personal he can't really talk about it. I mean, I wouldn't imagine it is. He says this is a fallacious argument. Again, we're dealing with somebody that can barely put together one sentence. He basically provides no logic to the point he's trying to make. We got to roast this guy. Don't you love how someone makes their claim? This is a fallacious argument, and yet there he is creating a fallacious argument himself. Even an even entirely different and more fallacious argument. What? How do these people get so fucking stupid? My reply. Oh, come on. I gotta blow my fucking nose, guys. I gotta fucking sneeze, dude. Okay. Oh, come on now. You can't just walk into the philosophical noodle factory, yell fallacy, and run back out the door. So it's like you really got to explain to them what they're doing. Otherwise, they don't even know or realize what they're doing. Isn't that funny? Like, at least I can see and tell you what you're doing. And it's like, you don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you just did. You barely even know what you just said. How am I supposed to take somebody that fucking stupid serious? Which fallacy? Name it. And more importantly, show me exactly where the reasoning fails. I'm completely willing to be wrong. In fact, if you find a legitimate hole in my argument, that makes this more interesting. My basic question is, if absolute nothing ever existed, how could it ever become something? And if absolute nothing never existed, then something in the form has always existed. I personally put my philosophical chip on God being at the bottom of that mystery. But that's my belief, not something I'm pretending I've mathematically proven. So don't just hit me with fallacious argument. Bake my noodle. What's the fallacy? And what do you think is the better explanation? The kitchen is open. Okay. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Remember, if somebody seems to not know what the fuck they're talking about, they more than likely don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Notice he just doesn't seem to know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, how shallow is he? He's like barely 1 inch fucking shallow. It's like going to swim in a fucking pool, but the fucking depth of the pool is barely 1 inch. How the fuck are we gonna swim in that fucking pool? We continue to the next comment. Sweaty balls. All right. Here we go. All right. Let's read his comment so I can get a better idea of what he's trying to say. So, this guy says, space, this is on the video. So let's take this. If absolute nothing never existed, then something must have always existed. So space and time are linked. There's nothing that suggests either exists without the other. So the question itself is making assumptions. We don't know enough about nature, the nature of reality to even ask what you're wondering intelligently. He gets it. This guy gets it. All right. Finally, we got somebody that's actually getting, you know, somebody that's, it's like 50% of people are pretty good with what they're trying to say. They kind of make a good point. And then you got the other half of people, they leave their point completely out of it, and yet they're all trying to state their point. But it's like, but you forgot to include your point to begin with. How do they get so fucking dumb when they forget to even include their fucking point that they're supposedly supposed to be making a point of? Oh man, parents, spend some time with your children. Make sure that they're not remaining dumb as a motherfucking rock. If your child isn't learning how to put things into words, make sure that they're spending extra time in those fucking books learning shit. Half of this generation is dumber than a fucking brick. All right. We reply back. This is actually a really good objection. You're right that space and time are deeply linked in modern physics, and I absolutely agree with your bigger point. We may not understand reality well enough to even formulate the ultimate question correctly. Maybe asking what happened before the universe is already nonsense if before requires time and time is part of the universe. But now you've accidentally made my rabbit hole worse. Because let's throw away the words before, first, and even where. Forget asking what was before everything, instead ask, why is there a reality at all? Space-time exists, fields exist, matter exists, laws or regulatories exist, we exist. Why this rather than absolute nothing? And maybe even that question contains assumptions our little monkey brains aren't equipped to recognize. That possibility fascinates me. Maybe we're creatures inside reality trying to understand reality as a whole, using brains that evolved specifically to survive inside it. So I agree with you more than you might expect. I personally put my philosophical chip on God, but I can't pretend I've proven that. So here's my noodle baker back to you. Do you think the ultimate answer is simply beyond human comprehension? Or do you think science could eventually understand the fundamental nature of reality itself? Because that's a debate I want to hear both sides of. All right, we go to the next question, or we go to the next reply. Who was it? Who are we replying to? We are going to reply back to Goger. So we already replied back to Goger here. And he replied back to that reply. Why is it so hard to find these people's fucking replies? Oh, we already replied to Goger. No. How did we already reply to Goger? Oh, we did that. It was, okay. We just already did that. So let's just go over what this is. The eternal present has and is. The eternal present now, that's a noodle baker. Maybe past and future are partly how we experience reality. Why? Oh yeah, I remember. We already went over that, so I'm not going over that again. All right, the next we go back to this guy. So we already have a bunch of love. Love has always been there. Okay. Fuck, man, this fucking blanket. Okay. Here is our reply. So we reply back saying, "Bro, we started this conversation with entire civilizations living inside your toenail. Then we accident I gotta sneeze. Dude, it's fucking hot and all the pollen or dust. It's like I can tell it's in the air because my allergies are fucking terrible. Okay, bro, we where are we at? Then we accidentally annihilated them with the cosmic nail clipper of doom, and somehow after all that, your answer to what has always always existed is love. This might be the greatest character arc in the entire comment section, but wait, you just baked another noodle. Can love exist without something capable of experiencing or expressing love? If love has always existed, wouldn't something capable of love also have to have always existed? And now we're dangerously close to my rabbit hole again. An eternal something capable of love behind existence itself. My guy, we are slowly inventing God again. Your move, cosmic toenail philosopher. Okay, we're going to get back to his other. So he also replied here saying this. Bro, my nose. I if I could blow my fucking nose off, bro, my nose drives me fucking crazy. It's always stuffed. My allergies are fucking terrible. I probably have some of the worst allergies in the fucking world. Okay, so we reply back. Okay, hold on. Let me blow my fucking nose again. You know what? I should take an allergy pill. All right. Okay, now your love has always been here comment makes way more sense. You're proposing something really interesting. Energy, love, prana, Holy Spirit, different words, different traditions, different ways of describing one fundamental thing that animates existence. And that absolutely bakes my noodle, because what if humanity has spent thousands of years arguing over the label while different cultures were attempting to describe different aspects of the same underlying reality? Science calls something energy. Eastern traditions might describe prana or life force. Christianity speaks of the Holy Spirit. You call the underlying essence love. Now, I'm not saying those concepts are scientifically demonstrated to be literally identical. That's where belief enters the conversation. But philosophically, what if God isn't simply another thing floating around somewhere in the universe? What if what we call God is the eternal foundation that everything else participates in? Then your answer to my original question, what has always been here, becomes whatever God ultimately is. And apparently we've gone from cosmic toenails, comparative theology, and the fundamental nature of existence. This comment thread has completely lost control. So here's your next noodle. If love is fundamental and eternal, does love require consciousness to exist? Because if your answer is yes, we've got an eternal consciousness hiding at the bottom of this rabbit hole. All right. Did he have another reply? I don't think so. Okay. We go to the next. I think that might be. We have like one more comment. Oh, we have two more. We'll get back to him again in 1 second. I think he just replied back to us. Oh, this is the next comment we're going to reply back to. Shannon Murray says, what if we just can't get past just is? Because we're constrained by time. It's outside of our thinking or understanding. She makes a good point. She makes a good point here. So I say, yes, this is exactly one of the possibilities that keeps frying my brain. Maybe we keep getting stuck on, okay, but what came before that? Because our brains literally don't know how to think without, before, now, after. Everything we've ever experienced happens in that order. But what if the ultimate foundation of reality isn't constrained by that structure? Imagine trying to explain color to something that has never had vision. Maybe it wouldn't merely be difficult to understand. Maybe its brain wouldn't even possess the conceptual equipment necessary to imagine it. What if we're doing the same thing with eternity? We hear God just is, and immediately our brains scream, sorry guys, I just woke up. Our brains scream, yeah, but when did God start existing? But when might already be the mistake. If time itself is part of reality as we experience it, maybe an eternal God didn't exist for an infinite number of years. No clock, no yesterday, no waiting around for infinity, just is. And here's your noodle baker back. What if the answer isn't actually impossible to understand? What if it's impossible for a human brain to even form the correct question? Now that possibility scares the hell out of my noodle. Oh, there we go. We got Jonathan over here again. Jonathan, the noodle baker of the thread. He says, there is nothing new, no new atoms. Everyone is recycled over and over and over again for eternity. Therefore, we are not new. We must have always been here and always will be. When I think of that infinity sign, it's got two sides, and the place where it crosses over is the middle. To me, that represents awake and asleep, or alive and the other side of alive. There is no death. Death is a lie created by man in order to control by means of fear. Jonathan makes another good point. You know what I was also thinking? I got a real noodle baker for you. All right, check this one out. Now that you mentioned the infinity sign again, you just brought me back to another concept I've been thinking about: past, now, future. But here's the weird part: the future eventually becomes the now, and then now becomes the past. And whatever comes next becomes the new now, over and over and over. It's almost like the past and future are consistently recycling themselves through the one thing we actually experience now. You can't physically visit yesterday right now. You can't physically experience tomorrow yet. Every moment you've ever experienced was experienced as now. So your infinity symbol analogy gets really interesting. One side could represent what was, the other could represent what will be, and the crossing point in the middle, now. Reality continuously passing through itself. And then your recycling idea takes it even deeper. The atoms making us aren't brain atoms or Jonathan atoms. They're matter that existed before us and can continue participating in reality after us. Now, whether our consciousness gets recycled too, whether there's an other side, or whether death is actually a transition rather than an ending, that's where we leave established science and enter the philosophical spiritual rabbit hole. But here's the noodle you just baked for me. If the material making you up existed before your birth and continues after your death, at exactly what point did you begin? And what exactly is the thing we call you? Bro, we started with your fucking toenail. How did we get here? All right, well, we have wrapped up today's philosophical replies. Maybe I'll do this tomorrow if I have enough replies to reply back to. Maybe I'll do it once a week or something because, we got to have people asking questions in order to answer their question. So as long as we keep getting enough questions, we're going to keep answering everybody's question as much as we can. Feel free to come swing by the TikTok, drop some questions, try to bake everybody's noodle, and we'll try to bake each other's noodle. All right, so I'm going to end this stream, and I am going to jump on Overwatch. Everybody have a good afternoon. I'm actually... I don't know if I'm going to get on Overwatch right away or if I'll be on Overwatch in a couple hours. I might get on Overwatch right away. And then I might take a break after I go eat because I'm probably going to eat in maybe like 1 or 3 hours. So maybe I'll get on Overwatch for like an hour or 3 hours until I go eat. Then I'll take like another hour or 2 hour break and then get back on. So anyway... stick around. I'll be back on in a little bit. Everybody, have a good afternoon. Don't let these philosophical debates rile you up in a way where you're angry with each other's beliefs. All right? Respect each other's beliefs. All right. Not everybody believes the same thing. You might not believe the same exact thing as Johnny. You might not believe the same exact thing as me. I might not believe the same exact thing as you. I might not believe the same exact thing as Johnny. But that's why we're presenting it with all these questions and just trying to answer each other's. Well, how do you get to that belief? How did you get to that point that you believe this? And then so we can exchange. Don't make it any more than just exchanging between each other's ideas and concepts, because it's more, all this philosophical stuff is supposed to be a light-hearted debate. It's not supposed to challenge each other to the degree of you're right, I'm right, you're wrong, or you're right, I'm wrong. And since you're wrong, you lost the game. Game over. You can never speak again. You should be ashamed of yourself that you're wrong. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about being honest. Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? So we're not saying anybody's right. We're not saying anybody's wrong. We're philosophically keeping the debate in the air. We're calling the coin flip in the air. We don't know how it's